I sit in my new apartment, gazing at the panoramic city view I fought so hard for. The peaceful silence feels earned after the chaos of my divorce. My life is transformed in ways I never imagined. Better career, genuine friends, and most importantly, inner peace. Then my phone buzzes. One new message. From Jessica. My heart freezes as I stare at my ex-wife's name, a name I had finally stopped searching for. Just like that, the life I rebuilt feels suddenly threatened by 6 words. Can we talk? I miss you. Before I tell you how I handled my ex trying to come back into my life, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Hit that like and subscribe if you have ever had to rebuild yourself after someone broke your heart. At 32, I had everything figured out. At least I thought I did. Working as a software engineer in Seattle, my career was on a steady upward trajectory with financial stability most people my age would envy. I had good friends, a nice downtown apartment, and enough savings to plan for the future. The only thing missing was someone to share it all with. I met Jessica at a tech conference in San Francisco. She worked for a competing firm, but in marketing, not engineering. We locked eyes across a crowded networking event, and something just clicked. Where I was methodical and planned, she was spontaneous and vibrant. Her laugh could light up an entire room, and her creative mind constantly amazed me. After 3 days of conference flirting, we exchanged numbers, beginning 6 months of long-distance dating before she relocated to Seattle. The proposal happened on Mount Rainier during a sunset hike. I had the ring hidden in my camera bag, and when the alpenglow hit the snow-capped peak, I asked her to be my wife. Her tearful yes became one of my most treasured memories. We married the following spring, in a beautiful ceremony at a Napa Valley winery, surrounded by friends and family who celebrated our seemingly perfect match. Our first year of marriage was everything I had hoped for. We settled into a spacious apartment, with views of Elliott Bay, spent weekends exploring the Pacific Northwest, and began planning for our future. We talked about having kids after a few years, buying a house in one of Seattle's family-friendly neighborhoods, and eventually starting our own tech consultancy. Jessica decorated our apartment with photographs of our adventures and unique art pieces she found at local markets. I felt complete. As I moved into my second year with the company, an opportunity for promotion appeared. The senior developer position would mean more responsibility, higher pay, but also longer hours temporarily while I established myself. Jessica supported the move enthusiastically, telling me to chase my ambitions. The promotion came through, and while I was thrilled, the additional hours started to take a toll on our time together. Jessica began expressing subtle signs of dissatisfaction. Date nights became less frequent as project deadlines loomed. She would comment that we were becoming one of those boring married couples when I was too tired for spontaneous midnight adventures or weekend getaways. At first, these comments seemed harmless, but they gradually increased in frequency and sharpness. Around this time, Jessica reconnected with friends from college through social media, artistic, free-spirited types who lived very different lives from our structured routine. She started attending poetry readings, art gallery openings, and music events without me coming home late smelling of wine and cigarettes. When I expressed concern about growing apart, she accused me of trying to control her. I backed off, not wanting to be that husband. One evening, Jessica announced she was quitting her marketing job to find herself and explore more creative pursuits. Despite the financial implications, I supported her decision, wanting her happiness above all. I took on additional projects at work to compensate for the lost income, further reducing our time together. The distance between us grew more palpable each day. My first real suspicion arose when Jessica started guarding her phone. She would take calls in another room, text with her screen angled away from me, and take her phone even for quick trips to the bathroom. One night, while she showered, her phone lit up on the coffee table. The message preview showed a text from someone named Tyler saying, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow." Our usual spot. When confronted, Jessica dismissed it as an old college friend who needed emotional support through a divorce. I wanted to believe her. The subtle changes continued, accumulating: new clothes, different hairstyle, more makeup, even on days she claimed to be just hanging out with girlfriends. She would come home with stories that had inconsistencies I noticed but did not challenge. Our physical intimacy dwindled until it became almost non-existent, with Jessica claiming stress and exhaustion. When I suggested marriage counseling, she reluctantly agreed. The therapist, Dr. Mendez, tried to help us reconnect through communication exercises and date night assignments. I threw myself into these activities, desperate to save our relationship. Jessica participated half-heartedly, often checking her watch during sessions or forgetting to complete the assignments. After just 4 sessions, she declared counseling useless and refused to return. My mental health deteriorated rapidly. Anxiety kept me awake at night wondering where Jessica was when she stayed out until 2 or 3 in the morning. Depression made even simple tasks feel overwhelming. My performance at work began slipping with my boss, taking me aside to ask if everything was all right. I lied, saying I was just dealing with some family issues. The truth felt too humiliating to share. The revelation came on a Tuesday afternoon. A database migration finished early, allowing me to leave work at 3 instead of my usual 7. I stopped to buy flowers and Jessica's favorite wine, hoping to surprise her and rekindle something between us. When I unlocked our apartment door, I heard muffled voices from our bedroom. I stood frozen in the hallway, flowers hanging limply at my side, as the truth became undeniable. The bedroom door was partially open, and through it, I saw Jessica, with a man I recognized as Tyler, her former colleague, from the marketing department. The wine bottle slipped from my hand, crashing against the hardwood floor. The noise alerted them to my presence. What haunts me still was not the obvious betrayal, but Jessica's expression, not shame or regret, but annoyance at the interruption. "You are home early," she said flatly, pulling on her robe while Tyler scrambled for his clothes. No apologies, no explanations, just cold acknowledgement of being caught. When I asked how long this had been happening, Jessica shrugged and said, "Does it really matter now?" In that moment, I realized our entire marriage had become a charade. Within days, Jessica demanded a divorce. She blamed me for being emotionally unavailable, for working too much, for changing after marriage. According to her version of events, she had been forced to look elsewhere for connection. Tyler stood awkwardly in our living room, as she packed her things, avoiding eye contact with me. The divorce proceedings were brutal and quick. Jessica hired an aggressive attorney who demanded half of everything, including my pre-marriage savings and a portion of my future stock options. Fighting would have been costlier than settling, so I gave in to most demands just to end the nightmare. Most of our mutual friends sided with Jessica after she crafted a narrative painting me as controlling and neglectful. By the time the papers were signed, I had lost my wife, many friends, half my assets, and every shred of my self-confidence. When Jessica moved out, taking most of our furniture and leaving behind only what she did not want, I sat alone on the floor of our once-shared apartment, surrounded by empty walls, where photos once hung, wondering how my life had collapsed so completely. The first week alone in the empty apartment nearly broke me. I called in sick to work for 5 consecutive days, unable to face colleagues who might ask about Jessica or notice my disheveled appearance. Takeout containers piled up beside the air mattress I purchased when Jessica took our bed. Unwashed clothes littered the bathroom floor. Shaving seemed pointless. Showering became an occasional event, rather than a daily routine. During those dark days, I developed a masochistic habit of stalking Jessica's social media accounts at night, scrolling through newly posted photos for signs of her new life. Each picture with Tyler felt like a knife twisting in my chest, yet I could not stop looking. The crowning blow came 2 weeks after she left photos of them in Cabo San Lucas, a vacation destination Jessica and I had discussed, but never visited due to my work schedule. The timestamp revealed she had left for Mexico, the day after our divorce was finalized. On the 11th night of my isolation, after consuming most of a whiskey bottle, I called my younger brother Anthony in Portland, sobbing uncontrollably. I confessed that I had contemplated ending everything, scaring him enough that he drove 3 hours through the night to reach me. Finding me unwashed, surrounded by empty bottles, and barely coherent, Anthony stayed for a week, cleaning my apartment, forcing me to shower and cooking actual meals. "This is not who you are, Mario," he told me firmly one morning. "You have always been the strong one, the one who handled everything. I am not leaving until my brother returns." His presence became my lifeline, his tough love the only thing preventing complete surrender to despair. When he finally returned to Portland, I promised daily check-ins and agreed to see a therapist he had researched for me. Dr. Wilson specialized in betrayal, trauma, and divorce recovery. In our first session, I could barely speak without breaking down. He normalized my reactions, explaining the physiological and psychological responses to profound betrayal. "What you are experiencing is not weakness," he explained. "Your brain is responding to trauma just as it would to physical danger. Your nervous system is in constant fight-or-flight mode." Unable to bear the memories saturating my apartment, I broke the lease and moved to a smaller place across town, taking only essential belongings. The new apartment was sterile and impersonal, but it offered something invaluable: no memories of Jessica. Each morning, I forced myself to make my bed a small act of order, amidst the chaos of my emotions. Following Dr. Wilson's suggestion, I created a structured morning routine: meditation, shower, healthy breakfast, then affirmations before work. These simple steps provided scaffolding when everything else felt uncertain. An unexpected text from my college friend Alex proved another turning point. Having gone through his own divorce years earlier, he recognized the isolation I was experiencing. "This weekend, no excuses, we are hanging out," he wrote. "And do not worry, I will not ask about her unless you want to talk." That Saturday, he appeared with pizza and non-alcoholic beer, insisting we watch terrible science fiction movies like we did in college. For the first time in months, I laughed genuinely, a rusty sound that surprised even me. Dr. Wilson suggested physical activity might help regulate my emotions and improve sleep. The gym seemed overwhelming, but I began with early morning walks around Green Lake, gradually increasing distance and pace. 1 month in, I joined a local fitness center, where I met Trevor, a personal trainer, who noticed my aimless wandering among the equipment. After hearing a simplified version of my situation, he offered to show me the basics without pressuring me to sign up for sessions. "Channel that pain, man," he advised, during a particularly grueling set. "Transform it into something useful." His straightforward approach and complete disinterest in relationship drama made him easy to be around. Over time, gym sessions became something I looked forward to, rather than forced myself to attend. My body began changing: shoulders broadening, waistline shrinking, posture improving. Physical transformation gave me tangible evidence that change was possible. 6 months into therapy, Dr. Wilson guided me through a pivotal realization: my worth was never dependent on Jessica's validation. "You existed as a complete person before her," he said, "and you remain a complete person now." This simple truth triggered something profound within me. I began questioning other limiting beliefs that had crystallized during my marriage. That my methodical nature made me boring. That my career focus made me unlovable. That my quieter personality made me less deserving of loyalty. With renewed clarity, I evaluated my professional situation. Technology had evolved during my years of comfortable employment. To remain competitive and challenge my mind, I enrolled in an intensive coding boot camp on weekends, learning new programming languages and frameworks. The mental demands provided welcome distraction from emotional processing, and the objective nature of code offered satisfying problems with clear solutions, unlike the messiness of human relationships. The additional certification caught my manager's attention. When a project lead position opened unexpectedly, I submitted my application with a detailed proposal for implementation improvements. To my surprise, I received not only the position but also a substantial raise. Colleagues who had treated me with awkward sympathy following my divorce began seeking my input on technical challenges. My professional identity, separate from my failed marriage, re-emerged stronger than before. Trevor's influence extended beyond the gym when he invited me to join his weekend hiking group. Initially reluctant to socialize with strangers, I agreed only to avoid spending another weekend alone. The diverse group included people from various backgrounds: a nurse, an architect, a high school teacher, a graphic designer, none of whom knew my history or treated me as the divorced guy. During a challenging ascent of Mount C, I discovered I could connect with others without Jessica as social intermediary. Through the hiking group, I discovered an unexpected passion for landscape photography. Capturing dawnlight on alpine lakes or mist rising through evergreens provided both creative outlet and metaphorical perspective. Beauty existed even in the aftermath of storms. When the local coffee shop near my apartment featured local photographers, I submitted 3 prints without expectation. The owner not only displayed them but sold 2 within the first week, with the buyer requesting more of my work. The greatest challenge in my recovery journey came 1 year post-divorce, attempting to date again. My first coffee meeting with Amanda, a woman from the hiking group, ended awkwardly when she innocently asked about my previous relationships. The panic attack that followed embarrassed us both, but taught me I needed more healing before pursuing romance. 2 months later, I met Samantha through a photography workshop. Our casual relationship lasted only 6 weeks, but proved invaluable in establishing new boundaries and expectations. When we parted amicably, I recognized my growth. I could experience disappointment without devastation. 18 months after the divorce, I achieved a milestone that symbolized my rebirth, purchasing my own condominium. The realtor seemed confused by my emotional response when signing the final papers, not understanding that this represented more than property ownership. This space was mine alone, selected according to my preferences, reflecting my aesthetic without compromise. That night I hosted a small housewarming with Anthony, Alex, Trevor, and new friends from the hiking group. Looking around at these people who knew and accepted the person I had become rather than who I had been, I realized I had created something precious from the ashes of my marriage. The text message arrived on an ordinary Tuesday evening as I relaxed in my condo following a productive day at work. My phone screen illuminated with a name I had finally stopped searching for: Jessica. My heart hammered against my ribs as though attempting escape. With trembling fingers, I opened her message. "Hi Mario. Been thinking about you lately. Would love to catch up for coffee sometime. For closure." The casual tone, as though we were old classmates rather than people who had shattered each other, struck me as surreal. That night, sleep proved elusive as conflicting emotions battled within me. Part of me wanted answers to questions that had haunted me during dark nights. Another part recognized the danger in reopening healed wounds. By morning, rationality prevailed, and I called Dr. Wilson for an emergency session. His advice was measured. Meeting might provide closure, but only with proper boundaries. Public place-specific time limit, clear purpose. And absolutely have support standing by. With those parameters in mind, I agreed to meet Jessica the following Saturday at a downtown coffee shop. Neutral territory, far from either of our homes. I arrived 20 minutes early to secure a table near the door, with clear sightlines, a strategic position Dr. Wilson had suggested. My friend Alex waited at another cafe across the street, available for an emergency extraction call if needed. Trevor and Anthony both sent texts that morning, with variations of "Stay strong and remember who you are now." When Jessica entered precisely at 2 o'clock, my first observation was how little she had changed physically. The same carefully styled blonde hair, designer jeans, and signature red lipstick. Yet something in her bearing seemed diminished. The confident swagger replaced by hesitancy. She spotted me, immediately flashing the smile that once melted my defenses, and navigated through the crowded shop. "Mario," she breathed, sliding into the seat opposite me. "You look amazing. The beard suits you." Her eyes traveled over my broader shoulders and more defined jawline, products of 18 months of physical transformation. Working out. The familiar scent of her perfume triggered unwelcome memories. But I centered myself with a deep breath, remembering Dr. Wilson's advice to stay present. The initial conversation remained superficial. Updates on mutual acquaintances, the Seattle weather changes in the neighborhood. Jessica carefully avoided mentioning Tyler until I directly asked about him. Her expression darkened. "That ended about 6 months ago," she said, stirring her latte absently. "Turns out I was not the only married woman he was pursuing at the company. His pattern was targeting women in vulnerable marriages, then moving on once the excitement faded." As she continued talking, the true purpose of our meeting gradually emerged. Jessica described her post-divorce life in terms of progressive disappointment. The exciting new relationship with Tyler quickly revealed itself as shallow and manipulative. Most of our mutual friends had drifted away after witnessing Tyler's behavior with other women. Her creative pursuits had not materialized into sustainable income, forcing her return to corporate marketing with diminished credentials. The apartment she had taken such pride in decorating now felt empty and impersonal. "I've been watching your success from afar," she admitted, eyes downcast. "Your promotion, the photography exhibition, your new place. You have really thrived without me." The irony of her statement hung between us. She had predicted my life would collapse without her stabilizing influence. Yet the opposite had occurred. My recovery had been hard-won through pain and deliberate growth, while her exciting new beginning had deteriorated into regret. Jessica reached across the table, her fingers brushing mine in a gesture once so familiar. "I have been doing a lot of thinking, Mario. About us. About what we had." Her voice lowered intimately. "We had something real before things got complicated. A foundation most people never find." My stomach tightened as her intentions became unmistakable. "I wonder if we could try again. Older, wiser, with better communication. We already know each other's flaws, so there would be no surprises." For a dangerous moment, temptation flickered. The familiar is powerful, especially when wrapped in memories of early happiness. Jessica represented a known quantity in a world of uncertain relationships. The path back to her offered certain comforts, shared history, established patterns, physical familiarity. Yet alongside this temptation came visceral flashbacks, discovering her betrayal nights, spent questioning my worth, the crushing weight of depression, the painstaking process of rebuilding my identity separate from her definition of me. As Jessica continued outlining her vision of reconciliation, my phone vibrated with a text from Trevor. "All good." That simple check-in acted as anchor to my present reality. I looked at the woman across from me with sudden clarity. She was not seeking reconciliation from love or recognition of my value. She was seeking the security and stability I now represented after her exciting alternatives had failed. The contrast between her casual discarding of our marriage and her current calculated return crystallized my decision. "We had something I thought was real," I said, finally interrupting her description of how we could rearrange my condo to accommodate her things. "But real relationships do not include betrayal as a solution to problems." Jessica flinched at the directness unused to this assertiveness from me. "The man you married would have welcomed you back without question, grateful for another chance. But I am not him anymore." Jessica's expression shifted from confident persuasion to disbelief. "You cannot mean that?" she insisted, reaching for my hand again. "We were married. We have history. You loved me completely." When I gently withdrew my hand, her eyes narrowed. "Is there someone else? Is that what this is about?" The suggestion that only another relationship could explain my refusal revealed how little she understood my journey. "This is not about someone else," I explained calmly. "This is about me valuing myself enough not to re-enter a relationship that nearly destroyed me. The trust between us is broken beyond repair." As her eyes filled with tears, I felt compassion, without the desperate need to fix her pain that would have once consumed me. "I forgive you, Jessica, not because what you did was acceptable, but because holding on to that anger was poisoning me. I hope you find what you are looking for, but it cannot be with me." I paid for both our coffees as a final gesture of closure, then stood to leave. Jessica grabbed my wrist, tears now flowing freely. "Please, Mario. I made a terrible mistake. I miss our life together." For the first time in our conversation, her words rang with genuine emotion, rather than calculated persuasion. Yet the tears that once would have weakened my resolve now strengthened my certainty that I was making the right decision. "Goodbye, Jessica," I said, simply gently removing her hand from my wrist. Walking away from that coffee shop felt like the final step in a journey that began the day I found her with Tyler. Not a journey away from her, but toward myself. Outside, the Seattle spring sunshine broke through clouds, a meteorological metaphor too perfect to ignore. I called Alex, who was waiting anxiously across the street. "I am good," I told him truthfully. "Really good." That night, my friends gathered at my place for an impromptu celebration of what Trevor called my final emancipation. 6 months after that pivotal coffee shop meeting, my life continued its upward trajectory in ways I never could have predicted during the darkest days of my divorce. The company recognized my leadership in developing a new client portal by promoting me to senior management, a position with greater creative control and improved work-life balance. My team respected my collaborative approach, and projects flourished under my guidance. My photography hobby evolved into a serious side business when a local gallery owner saw my work at the coffee shop exhibition and offered me wall space in her well-regarded space. Weekend trips to capture images of the Pacific Northwest landscapes provided both creative fulfillment and peaceful solitude. The extra income went into a special savings account, earmarked for a future wilderness cabin. A dream I had never shared with Jessica, knowing she would have found it boring. At the gallery opening featuring my work, I met Emily, a wildlife photographer whose honest critique of my technique initiated a spirited conversation that continued over dinner. Unlike my relationship with Samantha, my connection with Emily developed slowly and deliberately. She respected my past without being intimidated by it, and I appreciated her direct communication style after years of decoding Jessica's subtext. When Emily first stayed overnight at my condo, there were no dramatic fireworks, just a comfortable certainty that felt more sustainable than the passionate chaos of my marriage. The following spring, I closed on a small mountain cabin near Snoqualmie Pass. Nothing fancy, but entirely mine. The renovation process became a weekend project, shared with Anthony, Trevor, and occasionally Emily, who proved surprisingly skilled with power tools. During one such weekend, surrounded by friends sharing pizza on the unfinished deck overlooking the forest, I realized I had created a life richer than the one I had desperately tried to save. Through mutual friends, I heard Jessica had relocated to Chicago for a marketing director position. The news produced no emotional turbulence, just a genuine hope that she had found her path as I had found mine. Occasionally, I mentored other men going through divorces through an online support group Dr. Wilson recommended. Sharing my experience and watching others find their way forward gave purpose to the pain I had endured. The journey from devastated ex-husband to the man I am today involved countless small choices toward health rather than comfort, growth rather than stagnation. Each decision to face pain rather than numb it to establish boundaries, rather than seek approval to build new connections, rather than isolate contributed to this transformation. The divorce I once considered my greatest failure became the foundation for my most authentic life. What I learned through this process transcends the specific circumstances of my marriage and divorce. I discovered that self-worth cannot be outsourced to another person no matter how much you love them. I learned that survival often means simply making it through one day, sometimes 1 hour, until you build enough better days to recognize your resilience. I understood that forgiveness is not about condoning betrayal, but refusing to carry its weight indefinitely. Most importantly, I realized that some endings, however painful, create space for beginnings that would otherwise never have been possible. The collapse of my marriage forced me to rebuild myself according to my own blueprint rather than someone else's expectations. The man who emerged from that reconstruction is stronger, more compassionate, and far more authentic than the people-pleaser who once defined success through others' approval. When Jessica's text appeared on my phone that evening, nearly 2 years after our divorce, it represented a crossroads between returning to a familiar past or continuing toward an unknown but self-determined future. Choosing myself in that moment was not selfishness but self-preservation. Recognition that we cannot pour from empty cups or love truly without first valuing ourselves. Have you ever had to choose between returning to a comfortable but unhealthy relationship or continuing a more challenging but authentic journey forward? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories of transformation and resilience. Remember, sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most beautiful beginnings. Thank you for listening, and I wish you strength in writing your own next chapter.